In Genesis 19:15-16, the angels urge Lot to quickly flee Sodom with his wife and 2 daughters, warning them that they will be destroyed if they remain. The angels are insistent, telling Lot, "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished," according to BibleRef.com and Christianity.com. They are to leave immediately to avoid perishing in the destruction of Sodom. Picture this. The sun's about to rise over the ancient city of Sodom, and there's an urgency in the air. Angels are literally grabbing Lot and his family by their hands, pulling them away from the only home they've known. Lot was hesitating. Can you believe it? Even when destruction was knocking at his door, he struggled to let go. Genesis 19:15 describes the dawn and the angels urging Lot to leave. Genesis 19:16 emphasizes the urgency and the consequences of remaining behind. The angels are depicted as seizing Lot's hand and the hands of his family members to pull them away from the city, highlighting the imminent danger. This event is part of the larger narrative of God's judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah due to their wickedness, as detailed in Genesis 19. But here's the beautiful part. The angels didn't give up on him. The Bible tells us they took hold of his hands because the Lord was merciful to him. Just like those angels rescued Lot, Jesus reaches out to us today. When we're stuck, when we're unsure, when we're hesitating at the edge of transformation, he takes us by the hand. That's why we've chosen to follow Jesus Christ, our deliverer, our Savior. What does Genesis 19 teach us? Genesis 19 teaches about the consequences of sin, the importance of obedience, and the power of God's mercy. It tells the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, cities destroyed for their wickedness, and Lot, a righteous man who struggles with his choices and experiences both God's protection and the devastating effect of sin. 1. The severity of sin and its consequences. Genesis 19 vividly portrays the depravity of Sodom and Gomorrah, highlighting the consequences of unchecked sin and moral decay. The destruction of the cities served as a stark reminder of God's judgment against evil. The story also shows how sin can affect individuals and families, as seen in Lot's compromised life, and the tragic fate of his wife. 2. The importance of obedience. The angels instruct Lot and his family to flee Sodom without looking back, but Lot's wife disobeys and is turned into a pillar of salt. This event emphasizes the need for complete obedience to God's commands and the dangers of disobedience. It highlights that even seemingly small acts of disobedience can have significant consequences. Free, God's grace and mercy. Despite the widespread wickedness, God shows mercy to Lot and his daughters, rescuing them from the destruction. This demonstrates that God's grace extends even to those who have made mistakes and compromises. Abraham's intercession for Lot also highlights the power of prayer and God's willingness to respond to righteous requests. 4. The dangers of compromise. Lot's decision to settle near Sodom, despite its wickedness, shows the dangers of compromising with sin. His initial choices demonstrate how subtle compromises can lead to deeper involvement in ungodly behavior. The story encourages believers to avoid situations that could lead them away from God, and to prioritize spiritual growth over worldly temptations. 5. The nature of God's judgment. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah serves as a type of what will happen during the day of the Lord, a future event when God will judge the world. The setting when I read about Lot and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, I tend to think about Lot's wife and her turning back just when salvation was in her grasp. The angels had brought the whole family to safety. All they had to do was follow God's instruction not to turn back. It sounds so easy. I wonder what was so important to Lot's wife that she turned back. I'm sure that Lot was grateful to God and to the angels for rescuing him and his family, and also saddened by the loss of his wife. We too have been rescued. We have been rescued from the fear of death, from the effects of our sinfulness, and from eternal damnation. We have chosen to follow our deliverer, our Savior, Jesus Christ. What is there in our lives that is so important to us that we risk losing it all? Because we do turn back, just as Lot's wife. We often return to old habits, old companions, that lead us into sinful situations, old temptations that we think won't entrap us. We choose to ignore what has been done for us. Hopefully, we will have the sense to return to Christ, ask forgiveness, and work at moving toward a new way of living instead of returning to the past. In essence, Genesis 19 offers a complex and multifaceted lesson about the nature of sin, the importance of obedience, and the enduring power of God's grace and mercy.